A good man comes to Jesus in today's gospel story. He's a seeker. He's actually looking for more than what he has. What must I do to get to heaven? This particular gospel story is centered on this one man. But I think it has a greater depth to it than just that. For some of us here today, I think the Lord might end up saying the same thing that he says to this man. It's possible. But for some, I think he might say something else. Jesus first confirms the 10 Commandments with the man. He said, you know what you have to do. The law tells you this. You honor your father and your mother. You don't kill. You don't commit adultery. You don't steal. You don't lie. You don't defraud. He says these things. And the man says, this is a good guy. Says, I do those things. I mean, I keep those commandments. That's really great. But there's a danger to stand in front of Jesus and say, how do I get to heaven? Because he's going to tell you. And Jesus then, he says he's done all these things from his youth, and Jesus looks at him and he says, but you are lacking one thing. You have one major block to getting to heaven, and it's in your way. You believe it? I mean, that man's face must have fallen to the ground. He said to him, you have too many things. The possessions in your life are in the way. How would Jesus have known that? Well, besides being the Son of God and knowing the man's heart, he would have known it from the way the man was dressed. He probably had finer linens on, may have had jewelry on, may have smelled better than most of the people smelled because deodorant hadn't been invented. Those who could afford it perfumed oil and put that on. This guy probably was, Jesus just could look at him even and see that he had stuff in his life. But Jesus connects it to something else too, not just his possessions. He said, for you have too much stuff in your life and it's in your way. Jesus knows he's a seeker. This guy came running up to him and knelt down in front of him and said, I want to go to heaven. What a great thing to say. And Jesus says, yeah. He recognizes the goodness of the man. He says, yeah, but you really need to do one more thing. You need to get rid of your stuff, and then you need to come follow me. Jesus wanted him in his circle of disciples. And the man went away sad, for he had too much stuff. Sometimes I call this the gospel of the more, M-O-R-E, the gospel of the more. It's a fun one to do a guided meditation with, because you do a guided meditation with a group of people with this, you lead them all up to that. There is one thing lacking, and you stop. And you say, what does Jesus say to you? To you, each, to me. What would he say to you? There's one thing more you must do or change or come to terms with or settle or get over or let go or Or what would it be? What would be the one more thing he would come and say, you need to change this if you plan on coming home and being with me in heaven? If you want to come home, if that's your destination, if you've settled on that, it's one more thing that you got to let go of. What would it be? Power, control, possessions, things. Gosh, it could even be a hurt and an unforgiveness in the heart that I don't want to do because it hurts too much. But it's going to keep me out of heaven. Some hatred I have. Something that consumes me with anger, some lust, some greed, envy, jealousy, sloth, not caring about my spiritual life, not paying any attention, gone through motions but no heart in it at all. What is it? It's fascinating. My guess is that it changes. I know mine changes from time to time when I do this kind of an exercise with this passage. It'll change, and I think it'll change for all of us as time goes on and as we age and as things develop around us. Jesus loves seekers, and that's what we are. Jesus loves seekers, people who want to find him and meet him and come close to him. And he wants to change hearts. He wants to tell us what it is that has to be different for you, for me, in order to get to heaven someday. He desires that we be with him for eternity. So why would we not figure out that he's going to do anything he can and grace us with anything we need to be able to do it? Unfortunately, this young man walked away, and we don't know what happened to him. You notice one thing, Jesus didn't chase him down the road and say, just give up half of it. Just reform a little bit. No deals. Do it. It's a wonderful story. But it's a story about how loved we are, really. One of the things that we really need to do in our own lives is to be conscious of our sinfulness. I know we focus much more on this during the season of Lent and during that time of the year. Even Advent is a penitential season. But we need to focus on this all the time. I've never noticed sin only coming to my life during Lent and Advent. I've noticed it's kind of a year-round thing. It probably is with you too. We have the beautiful sacrament of reconciliation. It's available to us all the time. A great way, first, during preparation. I often say this, the most important part of going to confession is the preparation you do before. The way you prepare your heart to go, the way you examine your conscience, the way you come to terms with your sin, the way you face up to it and say, yep, I'm responsible. I did this wrong, or whatever. Or, this is the one thing more that I have to give up. Oh. It's the preparation that we do before we go. And then when we go celebrate the sacrament of reconciliation, what we do is we go and allow God to love us. It's what he does. He not only forgives the sin, but he graces us then to help us to grow away from it, out of it, beyond it, to move on in our life with him. We're loved. Who else would forgive us like that? Who else would turn around and grace us then and help us to be better? except our God. It's the most magnificent, wonderful sacrament. We were talking at our staff meeting recently, and we were talking about doing something a little different occasionally. I don't know how often we're going to do it, but we'll always give you an advance warning of it. But on this Sunday, after all Masses this weekend, tonight, and the 4 Masses tomorrow, 3 priests will be available after Mass to hear confessions until you're done. It'll be Father Ben, Father Larry, and myself tonight. We'll stay until you people are done celebrating, if you would like to do that. We think if maybe we'd make it more available to you, that perhaps you will use it even more. Actually, a lot of people here do use the sacrament, so it's not that we're complaining about that or anything. I think sometimes we just get so busy, we don't think about it and we don't take advantage of it. I hope we'll do this several times during the course of a year, where we'll just announce to you the week before that we're going to do it, and then we'll do it. You know, sometimes you got to think about this. Sometimes if you want God to love you, you got to give him a chance to do it. You know, you got to avail yourself of the opportunities that you get. It's like all the education stuff we do here for adults and all the opportunities we give you to grow in faith. You know, you got to step forward and take them. We can provide programs forever. We can provide times for confession forever. We can do all kinds of schedules and things. But you are the one who has to be the seeker. You're the one who has to run up, fall on your knees, and say to Jesus, hey, how am I going to get to heaven? And then listen to what he says to you in love. And if necessary, bring it. Bring it to him in the sacrament of reconciliation. Let him forgive and grace. He's about giving life. He's not about scolding and yelling and all that kind of stuff. We do that to one another. That's not God's way. Take advantage of the opportunities that you have. You're loved, profoundly loved, just like this young man was in the gospel today.